These were the folks who did the heavy lifting. They did the work. They did the work that helicopters do now. But keeping in mind, ladies and gentlemen, they were the ones who were carrying the most dangerous of goods, obviously, with the gasoline, and therefore the mortality rate was incredible. They covered over 400 miles in this route from St. Lo all the way to Paris, and then to the front lines. Which meant, ladies and gentlemen, many of them did not come back. All of our officers, said Crenshaw, were white, showed very little appreciation for the African-American soldiers. He suffered burns by hitting a landmine. He should have gotten a Purple Heart because he had burns on 10% of his body. However, he did get the Bronze Star. I'm sorry, 3 Bronze Stars, but he had to send away to get them. So if anyone ever talks to you about the Red Ball Express of Patton's Third Army, keep in mind that 75% of them, most of them, were African American, and had it not been for these truckers, ladies and gentlemen, there would not have been any success in the theater of World War II in Europe, I assure you. All right, let's get to it. Where do I start? Hope you had a good weekend. I did. You know, the turmoil that's happening in Donald John's administration, just a turmoil, period, in politics. Even those of you who support him, you've got to be shaking your head right now with the turmoil, the chaos. Always something. And then presidential announcements by tweet. Have we been relegated to this? I think we have, in many ways. And it's sad, ladies and gentlemen, that we've got to get this for. It's sad that we now have, I don't know, we have a situation such that all of us are stooping to the ignorance that's being spewed first, and then the utter and complete lack of decorum. And then there are those who try to explain away just what we're having to deal with.
How stupid are the people of the country?
He's proving that we're pretty damn stupid. He really, really is. Most of us, it seems, we're just... And this guy has mastered the idea of branding, which is why he does what he does and says what he says. And it doesn't matter if it's a lie. He knows that if you say it long enough, those who want to believe him will believe him. That's just how it goes. I have the phone in here for some reason. I'll get it. It just seems to me that we've reached a point in our country that reasonable thinking people have got to think more about the country than party. I mean, this is not a party thing for me. And I've been around long enough to know that we're being dumbed down. We're being, our entire presidential process and political process is being dragged to its lowest level when it comes to dignity. Let me just tell you, if you are a conservative, you have lost the moral high ground. I have no respect for you. If you are a evangelical Christian, trust me on this now, I'm being very, very straight with you. I have no respect for you whatsoever. None. You've lost the moral high ground when you support the antics that you see now. When you have a guy talk about grabbing vaginas and what are we now, 10, 15 now, children, women now, but children then coming forward to talk about a 32-year-old man trying to pick them up. And somehow or another feel that that's just politics. I'm just telling you, the moral high ground for oxy-conservatives is gone. The patriotic high ground is also gone. That dwindled away with Donald John challenging John McCain as a prisoner. I mean, it's just, we have reached a point, such a low in in my mind, of civil discourse. Not only that, the hypocrisy there is very evident. The standards have been lowered. I mean, down to the, I didn't think we'd ever get this low. I really didn't. Our standards have been lowered to just a, I don't know. And I hate to complain about it. I hate to sound like I'm sitting here whining about it. I am. Actually, it's kind of disgraceful for me. It's just disgraceful. It really is. I look at the presidency. It's being run like the city hall in some third world country. It really is, folks. It's kind of almost like a banana republic how we're doing things now with what is being said and how it's being said and how we're interacting with each other. And then there's Roy Moore, the big election coming up there in Alabama. I'm looking at the mall security now talking about it. And these were folks, ladies and gentlemen, there in Gadsden, who supported Roy Moore. No, you got to understand that. They supported Roy Moore. They knew what he was. They knew he was a pariah on teenage girls back in the 1980s. Not very long ago, by the way. And they knew what kind of guy he was. This security guard now came forward. Where is he? Greg Leggett worked at the record bar there in the music store. He talked about him all the time. Leggett, 59 years old, said an off-duty Gadsden police officer named Judge Moore as one of the guys to look out for. It was Roy Moore, a pickpocket, and another guy who liked to pick fights. Why? I'll tell you why. Because the young girls were complaining about it. Now, there's a big difference between a 32-year-old man trying to pick up teenagers and some guy, adults, working in an working environment, and saying something, how would you put this, lewd, or making a come on, or inappropriate touching. There's completely different. You've got a teenager and an older man, twice their age, and then you've got these ladies and a gentleman who's not being very gentlemanly. Big difference. Big difference. Now, I want to make it very clear. If it was a Democrat doing the same, I'd feel the same. I just have folks, let me just tell you, there's a distaste for that all over. Let me preface this by saying Rip Daniels doesn't want and has never wanted any woman who didn't want him. I was too arrogant. I don't know, you can call it whatever you want, arrogant, thought too much of myself, whichever. I just couldn't handle the rejection. I mean, some of you guys can, there's some guys who can handle rejection over and over again. Hey, you want to go out? Hey, you want to go out? I just couldn't handle rejection like that. I can only walk across that floor one time to ask you for a dance. If you don't dance with me then I will never ask you again in life. And it's not because I'm angry, it's because I'm embarrassed, it's because I feel that small. I just, so I'm going back with me now. It causes all of us, people like myself, to go back, well, did I ever do that? Ever grope someone's butt? Let me just think. Of course, I'm not elected, but let me just think about that. I've been in business for a while. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's a difference in that and some guy hunting and stalking teenagers. Big difference. I don't care who it is. But I do want to deal with both. I don't mind. There were sleazebags even then. I can remember a coach who was the head coach, actually, there in Gulfport during those days, who was a sleazebag, who would go over and Sherwood Estates and park his car. And by the way, he was reported, and this individual was protected. Now there's a building named after him, go figure. What? It's true. When you're children and you have that, boy or girl, when you have that kind of situation, you don't forget that. Sometimes even then you felt powerlessness. And that's a big key here, underscore powerless. Big difference between a child and an adult. There's a powerlessness that a child will feel that when an adult comes out of nowhere and stop acting like an adult. On the other hand, you have consenting adults who would walk into Weinstein's office, or consenting adults who would go to Conyers or Franken, or let's see, or consenting adults even there with Vitter over in Louisiana, the guy that propositioned a prostitute. And look, I'm not saying that it's nice. I'm just simply saying, in an adult world, it's a different story. I'll tell you why. Because the powerlessness is not there. Now, there are those who would argue, well, I had a job, I didn't want to lose my job. Well, then you made a decision that your job was more important than your booty. I'm sorry to put it that way. And I'm not saying you should go through that either. But at that point, when someone gropes you, then you need to say, all right, whoa, you won't go too far. We don't do that. I'm not that kind of girl. And there is some recourse. If you choose not to do the recourse because of somehow some benefit, let's say you get the part, or maybe you'll move up the ladder, or your career will be gone over if you said anything, then you've made that decision that your body is not as important as making a piece of change. By the way, there's a name for that. It's called prostitution. I'm not blaming you. I'm just letting you know what it is. Now, people want to call me and say whatever they want, they can. I think, on the other hand, the guy or the supervisor or Mr. Queen Maker who does that, who feels he can just walk up and grab you, I think that guy's a sleaze, and he's out here. He is, this guy is the kind of guy who, if he didn't have that kind of power, you wouldn't be caught dead with this guy. He's just not the kind of guy you want to be around. Even guys don't want to be around that kind of guy. Just don't. It's kind of a sleazy, wet hand, kind of guy. And look, folks, they're going to always make them. And some of you moms have sons who are going to grow up to be that guy. And you need to note that and say, well, okay, now I can tell he's going to be one of those guys that is not comfortable in his own shell, or feel, for that matter, that he is, because he's a man, he should be able to do whatever he wants to a woman and get away with it. Or he's going to be the kind of guy who feels that girls will like him because he's got cool stuff, or because he's got money. Mom, you should see that right off the bat. And you should be the first to slap the hell out of him. You should. A lot of what I see now is happening because moms don't rear their boys to be gentlemen. Moms are submitting and allowing their boys to even treat them ugly. That's another topic we'll get to in a minute. However, I think this whole thing with Franken is just, when it first came out, I thought, okay, so he forced a kiss on the actress. She called him fish mouth, good thing. She put the word out on him. Then he takes this picture trying to be funny. The comedian at the time. Come on. Really? Maybe it's just me, but if you're a woman and you see that and you think somehow or another this comedian was any kind of great threat. I mean, I didn't see a guy who's going to bend her over the table. You know what I mean? I know that's lewd, but I just didn't, do you walk away with that kind of feeling? I think it was distasteful, and I think it was, here they are, they're traveling together. Look, folks, in situations like that, it's not unusual. And I've not been in situations like that, whereby you undress around very beautiful women. You don't sit there and gawk. The guy who's in there, ooh, oh, God, look at her. I can remember I was with, used to have the Ebony fashion models. Used to come to this part of the world. It used to be, and boy, they were really incredible women. And I had the occasion to be in their midst in a private environment, and it was showtime, and so it was, they disrobed and did what they had to do, and I did what I had to do, and it's all about the business. As a mature man, you don't sit there and drool in the corner of the room because a woman gets undressed. It's something you've seen. I just don't get it. But I guess that there are men who just cannot handle their libido to that point, and many of them end up in very powerful places, so it seems. All right, so I want to go to Conyers, the Congressman Conyers, who stepped down now as being second chair. I think he's a minority leader there in the Judicial Committee. And the reason why I go to him because he helped me do some homework way back when. He's been in office, since 65, and I wrote to him, Conyers, and Funtroy, Congressman Funtroy, who's no longer in Congress right now. And I was doing a paper. I was trying to get information about Blanche Bruce and Hiram Revels, the forgotten black Mississippi senators. And so I was not able to go and do the work at the Department of Archives, so I wrote to them asking them if they provide first-hand information. And both of them did. And I received it from Congressman Conyers. And there was a dialogue back and forth, only in writing. And we weren't talking on cell phones that went around then. And I had an opportunity to go up to Washington, D.C. in hopes of seeing him during the winter term, and I was not able to do that. But you know, everything I'm reading about what he did, they settled some lawsuit of $30,000. Supposedly he was there in his underwear or something in his office. I'm going to tell you that it was not unusual to have congressmen actually sleep in their office. It really wasn't, folks. Now, I'm not taking up for him. I'm just simply saying I need to see more. He has adamantly denied any kind of fraternization or even approaching. Ro, you've seen this. Have you seen something here that I didn't see regarding Conyers that suggested that somehow or another he had forced himself on anybody?
No. He has maintained his innocence and not admitted, unlike Franken, to any kind of inappropriate interactions.
You know what I found more often than not, that I really appreciate men who would admit it. I think Franken came forward with an admission and to his constituents that I thought was pretty forthcoming. You know, you just don't see that among so-called oxy-conservative men. You just don't. They don't own up to anything. They don't beg anyone's pardon, no opining, no begging for forgiveness or admission. Here's what Franken said just recently to his constituents as to the other allegations that he was at some kind of park or something, country fair, and maybe he touched someone on their rear end. I want to get to this, and I'm going to get you in on this too, Whitlock, because I just think we've reached a point here whereby. Well, I'll tell you in a minute. Here's Franken.
Have you ever placed a hand on some woman's butt?
You know, I can't say that hasn't happened. I take thousands and thousands of pictures. We sometimes in crowded and chaotic situations. I can't say I haven't done that, and I am very sorry if these women experience that. And I have to say that I have to be a lot more sensitive, a lot more careful in these when I take a picture, when I meet someone, and I'm going to make sure that this does not happen again.
Yeah.
Can you really continue?
You know, let's see the hands of men out there who have patted a man on the behind. If you ever played football, I guarantee you did. Or basketball. Oh, let's see the hands of the men who was ever goosed another man. I didn't get into that. No, I didn't like that. There were some guys. I thought, why would a guy want to do that?
Yeah, no.
Ladies, you don't. I know you don't know what goosing is, do you, Will?
Say it again?
You don't know what goosing is, do you?
Goose?
Okay, yeah.
Afraid not.
No, good. You don't want to know. Men who do that are men who just they think it's so funny and it's not funny at all. That's and I can remember it back. It was like no.
That's assault.
The reason why I brought this up is it's okay. So you're there's a difference in grabbing and patting and cupping. Now I'm not really trying to, I'm not making light of it. I'm really trying to get give some explanation here. If a man is taking a picture with a woman and his hand eases down to her posterior, for a mature man, it doesn't mean anything. Now, and it depends on where. You know, I mean, if a man is standing and he reaches, he wants to grab your waist and so forth, and on the side, I mean, I can't say that I've never done that. I mean, would that bother you, Whitlock? I just want to know where.
I agree with you exactly where would be the factor.
Yeah.
You know, it's as long as it's in a respectful
So a man
manner.
pats you on the behind, and this is a man that you know and so forth. I mean, because you realize in Franklin's, they were performing for the USO. They were in close quarters with each other, and they were rehearsing, kissing, and so forth. But even if at a country fair, you know, I'm just trying to see what are the limits here, folks. 'Cause I think we've just blown this thing out of proportion. I really do. I just, would I want to touch a woman on the behind? No. I mean, I think men who just flock to that are you know, for their own reasons, or men who think they can get away with it because of something that some innuendo, some playfulness that maybe a girl had with them. What do you think, bro?
Yep.
I think women who are stern, who carry themselves like, no, beyond reproach, no, you're not going to touch me. I think, you know, that doesn't happen. I think that there are some women who playfully feel that they can get along and like guys with one of the guys. You're not one of the guys. He's not looking at you as one of the guys. You will never be one of the guys. I don't care how many times you say you're a tomboy. You are not one of us. You're not. And so consequently, you know, we're going to look at you for being what you are.
That being said, though, I do think that there are guys, obviously, who do not understand the dynamics of that and might take that as a challenge if a woman has made it clear that she does not want you to be groping her or gives off the persona as if...
That's the jerk.
That's the jerk.
That's the jerk, and they are out there, ladies. They are. And that's the one you don't let off the hook. When they touch you the first time inappropriately, you have to react. That's why I did that show on slapping.
Right there.
And I mean, if by chance they are within your sphere, then knee to the groin works. And if you did not do that, it makes me wonder, well,
Did you like it?
yeah, I don't know more about liking it, whether or not that was the appropriate response. You know? I mean, look, and I'm not condemning the ladies, but what I am saying is that there are those who are now trying to change the dynamic as to how we interact because of what I think in some cases is their day in the sun. In the case of Conyers and in the case of Franken, I just don't. I don't see that they are there, and maybe it's because I'm a man. And if you're a woman and you do see that they are there, please let me know. It has nothing to do at all with politics with me. It has more to do with, wait a minute, there are adult ways of handling things, and then there's a children way of handling things. But you should never handle these things like a child. Bro, you don't seem to be that with this. You don't want to. Wait a minute. You don't want to get hit behind the head or something.
No.
You're afraid.
No.
Whitlock's got you intimidated over there.
A little bit. I will say that. She's got these laser beam eyes on me right now.
And I'm looking at him.
And I bet not say anything wrong. But no, to that, I think that a lot of times it, for whatever reason, fear of losing whatever status position or even that...
well, they've decided that whatever the
informational
inappropriate is not as important.
Right. But I mean, that sets the stage for future victims. That sets the stage. And
I'm
that's
trying to understand how it became sexual.
What do you mean? It's all sexual. What you talking about?
Well, in other words, patting and so forth, how, and pardon my naivety, maybe.
The booty?
Well, what I mean is how something has, you know, when someone makes a come on and wants to go to bed with you or makes some lewd and lascivious suggestion, that's one thing. Patting someone?
Yeah, a little pat. A little booty. A little pat.
All right.
You know, just kind of like, hey, saying something without saying something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Franken, did we have another piece there from Franken?
Yes, this is him responding to him being able to call folks into question now, i.e. the Russia hearings, when his own credibility now is being called into question.
But hasn't your credibility been undermined?
I would say yes, and I have a long way back. I have a long way back to win back the trust of the people of Minnesota. I've let people down. I've let the people of Minnesota down. I've let my friends and staff and supporters down, my family down.
Sound like you were calling on Whitlock there. Look, I think it's very honorable that, and gentlemen like that, he would, regardless of whether he thinks he did something wrong or not, that he would apologize. That's the first thing you do. I would do that. Yeah, I don't sit there and go, oh, well, you shouldn't feel bad about this. I didn't mean it. I did. Well, if you felt bad, fine, I'll apologize for that. Have you ever been in a situation where you were accused of, how did I put this, Ro? Being forward when you weren't being forward, Ro?
I was.
Where someone, a woman actually, misinterpreted, as if somehow or another there was some ulterior motive for your saying something outside of being kind or...
Yeah, I want to just kind of briefly touch on this because I was reminded by it over the Thanksgiving holidays being back in Wiggins, but I was almost expelled out of Stone High School because of that. Me and 3 other African-American teenage boys were called into the office for allegedly making sexual advances toward a Caucasian female. I can't speak for everybody else, so I won't, but I can definitely speak for myself. I didn't do it. And it was proven I didn't do it because I wasn't expelled, and I didn't do it. But that was an instance where I felt as though it didn't matter what I did. At this point, a smile or a good morning, hey, how you doing, or hey, you look nice today, could have been misinterpreted as a sexual advance. Now, the allegations were a lot stronger than that, and I was able to soundly prove my innocence. But I've been in that position, and I know how it feels, and you kind of feel as though you need to insulate yourself and carry yourself in a way to where you cannot be misconstrued, or whatever you do, can't be taken the wrong kind of way. But then, you don't make those rules. I can't say if I look at you and you see me looking at you that you weren't intimidated or you didn't feel some type of way. You did, based on what you say. So I can't dispute that. That's how you felt. But luckily enough, I was able to get out from under those allegations. But yeah, I've been there.
I can't remember a time when I was living in apartments here, and I knew that there was a young lady next to me that she was single, I was single. And I had no intentions, we would speak, that's it. She wasn't my type. But I would take her garbage out. If I'm going down to the garbage, right? So I would take her garbage. At the time you had cans. So I just rolled both cans because they had to go out. And so it came out on the same day. I was up earlier, and I would do it. And this person she just felt that somehow or another that I was making some kind of gesture here. I was just simply being kind.
Well, it was a gesture, just not maybe what she thought, right?
No, it was, okay.
It
was a kind gesture, I guess. But time and time again, I've seen that, whereby, for God's sake, so in some cases, you can't even open the door when someone thinks that there is some ulterior motive. There's no motive. If I'm, when you're reared to be a gentleman, you're just a gentleman. You don't want to see a woman put out. It's not unusual for Rip Daniels to buy a drink and never even know your name. And it was like that. I used to have a bar, and I'm going to tell you, in that bar, it was customary that when I'm behind the bar and a woman comes up and sits by herself, she doesn't buy her drink. No, I didn't have to say, all the women eat free. No, women drink free. If another guy was at the bar, I would say, oh, well, women who come here by themselves don't have to buy their drinks, do they, Bob, or do they, JP, or... And the guy would acquiesce. Yeah, let's get a drink. You got me?
I got you.
That's good bartending.
Good bartending.
And anyone who went to my place would know exactly what I'm saying. And it wasn't a come on, but it started conversation. It wasn't like some quid pro quo, okay, I buy you a drink and I have to do this. Is that what's happening now, Whitlock? The guy buys you a drink, he has some expectation?
Oh, yeah. I think there is a bit. It just depends on the guy.
damn
You know,
shame.
not all guys are
There's
like
no
that.
class at all.
Just, you know, some dusty ones.
There's just no class.
Dust.
There's just no class. I mean, there's just no class, and and I guess it's a sign of the times all the way to the top. But when I look at this, I say to myself, you know, the kinds of people who would go through this, in my view, especially now, the women coming forward, I think that there's ulterior motive. I do, and I don't think it's political. I think it is, in some cases, to get their day in the sun. I mean, what woman comes forward to say that George Herbert Walker Bush patted me on the behind while he was in the wheelchair? I mean, why would you want everybody to know that? And then why didn't you stop that little wheelchair-bound guy? I'll be back.
Every day, more than 10,000 people are approaching retirement age, and many of them are not financially ready.